Okay, Titan. I think that's enough for the exterior. What's next on the menu? Next up, we have the interior scans. Processing them now, the woman's voice said, as the projection seemed to freeze in place, everything extending out to maximum and locking into a stable frozen state, turning around as segments of the interior of Hagara's body seemed to alight differently. We have a complete mapping of its internal systems. It seems to have a fairly complex mix of organs, for which we have determined the use for all of them. But the primary point of interest, I believe, is here, the woman's voice said, as a segment towards the underbelly of Hagara seemed to alight in a yellow light, as the projection seemed to expand on that segment, revealing within it what looked like a tiny duplicate of Hagara, all curled in on itself, wrapped up in a neat little ball. Holy shit. Is that what I think it is? The man said, staring at the projection. Yes, that is exactly what you think it is. This planet is definitely pregnant. But that in and of itself is very confusing. I'm getting very contradictory information. According to the genetic readouts that we've taken, which give Hagara's DNA based on its genetic structure, I can tell the amount of time that the child has been in utero. The problem being that it exceeds the timeline that it's genetically structured for. If anything, the child should be overdeveloped, ready to pop. And yet, the female voice said, as the holographic display of the small creature identical to Gara began to unfurl itself. And as it did, Delius was saddened greatly. Its form looked so frail, thin, wisp-like, almost as if its flesh was clinging to its bones, with no real substance to them. Withered, weak. And by the looks of it, this offspring is incredibly underdeveloped. It's lacking nutrients, extremely so. To be honest, I think it's the strength of this individual race itself is the only thing holding this thing to life. Most other biological beings probably wouldn't survive in this kind of condition. It's emaciated, extremely so, starving to death. And yet somehow it's still clinging on, but only barely. Its life signs are fading. In comparison to its mother, they're exceptionally weak. By comparing it to the biological survey studies that we have collected throughout countless species across countless worlds, and building comparisons based on Hagara's overall physiology, I can tell you with absolute certainty that this child is in a very bad state. Unhealthy is an understatement. Okay, so, did you already know this? The man said, looking over to Delius for a moment, who was still looking at the projection of the child, with a very sad expression on his face. Yes, we were aware of it. It's something that we've been trying to fix, or at least I've been trying to fix, putting a great deal of effort into it. But there are other problems to be considered. Yes, the woman's voice replied. This type of creature has, as you would suggest from its overall size, an enormous necessity for the intake of food. It most likely accumulated the stars and planets in this system itself in order to feed on them. What, you're telling me gobbling down entire solar systems wasn't enough to sustain this kid? The man replied, looking up into the air, over the projection. No, it isn't. That provides basic nutrients, physical kind. However, This species seems to subsist on both physical intake as well as something that seems to be more important to its development, which is the very unique radiation that seemed to be produced by the creatures that inhabit this world. Quite simply, there isn't enough of the radiation to feed the parent and the child. In fact, though the amount of radiation is quite frankly staggering, it's not even really enough to feed the mother. She should be denser than she is. She's actually thin, on a starvation diet, you might say. So she has little to nothing to give to nutrient when it comes to feeding this child with that radiation. Her own body is so starved for it, it's absorbing it all. And basically none of it is going to the kid, if any at all. Which is what brings about the situation you see. Okay, so what the kid needs is a massive dose of this particular radiation? Yes, according to our scans, that's what we're indicating. However, there are several problems with that. Problem number one, the radiation signature itself. We have detected it other times. However, only extremely sparsely. It's an incredibly rare thing, not something that commonly occurs. We're still unsure of why this particular form of radiation is so rare. However, it is a very rare commodity to come past. And then problem number two. Even if we manage to find a way to give this kid radiation, beef him up, it's going to result in the child's birth. The kid wakes up, the mom wakes up. She gives birth, and they eat this entire system. Yeah, that's definitely a problem, the man said as he began to circle, once again looking over the projections. Yes, I already knew all of this, Delius replied. What I need is a solution. How do we fix it? Save the child. Save the system. I need a way to do both. That's the problem I'm dealing with, and I have a very short amount of time to do this. Things are about to change around here. Drastically. My timeline is running short, Delius said frantically. Okay, so how short is your timeline? What are we looking at here? A few years? A few months? You have about 30 days, Delius said, as the man suddenly looked astonished. You're kidding me. 30 days. You really can't give me more than that? According to the projection, it's going to be years before this thing actually hits critical, where it's beyond saving. That should give us time to work on it. Sorry, but you don't have it. I can't go into the details, but I can assure you, after the passage of 30 days, none of this will be an issue anymore. The decision will be taken out of my hands or anyone else's. The child will be given the radiation it needs and devour this system. And after that, there will be no turning back. What will be done will have been done. Can't you stop it? That's insane. I need more time than that. Sorry, but 30 days is all you've got. So, Magic Man, can you do it or not? Find a way to save Hagara and its offspring, and this system. Do you have an answer? You said that you wanted something from me. Before, I questioned whether you could be of help. But with this display, I think I can put those questions to rest. You can be helpful. The only question is if you can meet the requirements. You said you wanted me to align with you, to be your ally in some sort of interplanetary union. Well, buddy, if you can fix this problem, then you won't just have me, I can guarantee you that everyone on my homeworld will back you. You'll have the support of us so-called gods, for whatever that's worth, and most likely the support of every other planet in this system. That is, if you can pull this off. 30 days. Can you manage it? If so, then you just collected yourself a buttload of allies. What do you say? Delia said, looking seriously at the man, who began once again staring at the projection in the center of the room. Taking a deep breath and exhaling slowly. 30 fucking days. You do realize that coming up with a plan that is sufficient for things of this magnitude under a 30-day timeline, as well as engineering the way to fix those problems, is not something that we alone are capable of doing. Yeah, I know, Titan. But, luckily enough for us, I think this falls under the category of Alpha Red. And if it's an Alpha Red situation, then I can call for full-scale clearance. I think that's more than enough to manage the situation. Well, I had better hope so. The woman spoke, as the projection faded away, and a control pad on the other end of the room seemed to alight, a section opening up, with what appeared to be some sort of strange blue liquid that glowed slightly. The panel opened for Omega Alpha Red level clearance. The man looked over to Delius. Well, I didn't really think that I was going to have to pull this, but I think the appeal of having a planet full of gods on my side is just a little bit too great. So, this is going to pull some major assets. But, if you're true to your word, it should be worth it. So, get ready for a fucking show. Because I'm about to show you what real magic looks like.